Hello students, today we are going to start with our very first chapter of Indian economy, which is Indian economy on the eve of independence. So if we in this chapter we'll be discussing about the state of Indian agriculture, industrial sector, occupational structure, the demographic structure, the infrastructure development during the colonial rule, and we also be looking about how the Britishers exploited Indian economy for their benefit only, and what impact did the policies pursued by the colonial government had on different sectors of Indian economy. So in this chapter we'll be looking at the state of Indian agriculture, the industrial sector, and various other sectors on the eve of independence. So let us start with this chapter. Now, if I am to quote the words of Victor Alexander Roos, who was the Viceroy of British India in 1894, he said in 1894 that India is the pivot of our empire. If the empire loses any part of its dominion, we can survive, but if we lose India, the sun of our empire will have set. So from these lines we can conclude that it basically indicates that how important Indian economy was for the Britishers, because all the economic interest of England were being fulfilled by the Indian economy, by the with the exploitation of Indian economy during that particular period of time. So these words basically explain that how Indian economy was important, how important Indian economy was for the Britishers, and that is why they didn't want to lose Indian economy from their control. So that is why they ruled over India about 200 years, over a period of 200 years. So what was the reason behind it? What was the why economy was much of importance for them? What was the reason behind it? We'll be looking at these questions. We'll be asking such questions. We'll be looking for the answers of such question in the later uh, so if we first of all we'll be looking at the state of economic development under colonial rule. So before the advent of Britishers, Indian economy was basically an agrarian economy, and almost 80 to 85% of the total population in India was dependent on agriculture sector. So agriculture was the main source of livelihood for the most of the people, like 80 to 85% of the total population was deriving their income from the agriculture sector only. And there were different kind, and Indian economy was also characterized by some different kinds of manufacturing activities, like we were producing different kinds of products as well, which were handmade basically. So handmade products were there, and that is why because the products were handmade, and the kind of raw material that was being used in making those goods and services was of very high quality, and the kind of karigari, we call it that, like the kind of karigari that was visible in those products, the kind of craftsmanship was visible in those products. It that is why these because of these two because of these because of this craftsmanship, the high quality of craftsmanship and high quality of material used in making those products, these products enjoyed a worldwide market. It went to Britishers. Okay, so and we were so it is why because of this these products were enjoying a worldwide market. So that is why we were exporting these products to the international market. Okay, so we were exporting cotton and silk textiles, metals products, precious stone products. We were exporting jute products and different other many other. We were exporting spices as well. Okay, so a lot of goods and services which were handmade, we were exporting those goods and services to the other countries. Okay, and it was because of the reputation of the fine quality of material used and the high standards of craftsmanship that was visible in those products. So because of these two reasons, the Indian products enjoyed a worldwide market. So these are these if you can see the pictures of the products which were famous for and which were famous in the international market. Like there were metal products, jute products, cotton textiles, the clay products were there, pottery products were there, spices were there, and these are the some of the examples of the products for which India was famous for before the advent of British rule. But after, when Britishers came in India, they totally destroyed this handicraft market. They totally, and this, because of the destruction of this handicraft market in India, it led to many consequences. Also the Indian economy was negatively affected because of the ruin of the Indian handicraft during the colonial rule, when the Britishers came into India. Okay, so we'll be discussing this at a later stage. First of all, we'll be looking at the scenario before the advent of Britishers. Now, this is, if you can see a picture, it was a kind of cotton cloth, cotton textile, and it is basically known as muslin. So muslin was another type of cotton textile, and it was grown in Bengal basically, which was the like Bangladesh region before the partition of India. And it was particularly known in Dhaka. That is why it is also known, it was also known as Dakkai muslin, and it gained worldwide fame as an exquisite type of cotton textile, and because it was of very fine quality. Okay, it was very good, it was worn by elite class, so that is why it was very famous. It was an exquisite type of cotton textile. Now the finest quality of this muslin was known as the malmal, and because since it was worn by, it was fit for the royalty, it was worn by the elite class in the foreign countries, in India. So that is why it was, the foreigner used to refer to as the Malmal Shahi or Malmale Khas, as because it was a sign of royalty, it was a sign of eliteness, so that is why it was also referred to as Malmal Shahi or Malmale Khas. Now, if we look at the focus of economic policies pursued by the colonial government in India, when they came into India, it was the major aim of the economic policies of Britishers was that they wanted India to become a market for the products which were produced in the industries of Britain, as well as a supplier of raw material to the industries of Britain, which were basically which were in the development phase during that particular period of time. So they wanted us to become an exporter of raw material and an importer of finished products from the Britain. So now what impact that economic policies pursued by the colonial government had on economic development of our economy? So the very first impact was it had a fundamental change in the structure of Indian economy, because because the economic policies pursued by the colonial government during the colonial rule, it transformed India, the country, into a supplier of raw material and consumer of finished products. So it led to a fundamental change in the structure of economy. Initially, we were exporting different goods and services, which resulted in an inflow of gold and silver and other bullions into our economy. But when the Britishers came in 90, in after in 80s basically, and 90s maybe, when Britishers came, the major objective, what they did basically, they transformed India or our country into a supplier of raw material and an importer or consumer of finished product from Britain. The second thing, if we look at the growth of GDP or growth of per capita income during colonial rule, the growth of GDP was at less than 2%. Our GDP was growing at less than 2%, and our per capita income, on the if you look at the per capita income, the growth of per capita income was 0.5% per annum. So you can imagine these data indicates that that Indian economy, the level of economic development during the colonial rule in India was very poor. We were stagnated economy. There was no scope of improvement in different kinds of sector. The output of the agriculture sector was also stagnant. Since the GDP was also stagnant, the per capita income of the nation was also stagnant. So thank you friends. Later in the next videos, we'll be discussing about the state of Indian agriculture sector during the colonial rule. Thank you.